Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Total OS Today here with Twil, of course, from Twil.tv. And this week in Linux, I had a request to talk a little bit about hardware. We do often talk a lot about software, myself, Twil, and a bunch of other hosts. But for tonight, I thought I would invite Twil over to chat. It's been a while, and we were just talking about it. We haven't chatted since March 24th. Twil, time flies. So how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, feeling good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Today was sunny
Mhm.
and warm, and I had my boy, and we were playing Halo 3 ODST, having a lot of fun. We were just talking about gaming and stuff, and hopefully we can get together and do a gamers podcast. But for tonight, we're going to talk about giving you advice on buying hardware or building a PC. Now, I haven't built a PC yet. I've done upgrades, but Twill says that he's done quite a few. So, Twill, let's pretend I want to build my own PC just for running Linux. What could you advise me?
It's a bit of a daunting task to get started with. You essentially have to go and research every part that you're buying, or at least a few of the parts you're buying, to make sure that they're going to be Linux compatible. A lot of them, like if you're going with the latest, greatest, brand new processors, you might have some issues unless you're running the latest, greatest kernel. I've seen a lot of issues with like the Intel third and fourth generation processors not being quite up to snuff in terms of performance, but they still do work. Personally, I'm running an Ivy Bridge processor on my Linux desktop. No issues with that. The integrated Intel graphics are working just fine.
Okay.
The key places where you're going to find hardware compatibility issues when you're trying to run Linux are if you buy a pre-built Windows 8 system, you might have some issues getting it to boot to the Ubuntu disk or to whatever other Linux distro disk you're loading, just
Right.
because UEFI and the built-in firmware can be issue that way. But also with things like the graphics card and the wireless card.
Okay.
Not such a big issue anymore, but like you've mentioned before, things like AMD graphics cards can sometimes be
Mm,
problematic on Linux.
yeah.
But others like NVIDIA, there can be some issues there too. Newer stuff is usually okay as long as you use the proprietary drivers. One of my coworkers was using it was an older Quadro graphics chip recently and had
Okay.
nothing but issues until we realized, wait a minute, you're not using the proprietary drivers. That's why it keeps locking up on you.
Okay.
So it's really just a matter of making sure that the hardware you're putting in there is going to be compatible with the kernel and with the if not the kernel, that there are some sort of drivers that you can install for it.
Okay. Um,
And usually, wherever you're going to buy it, if you're going to Newegg or Tiger Direct or wherever, if they have a comment section, a lot of times there will be people that comment in there saying, "I tried this on Windows 8, on Linux, on Mac, whatever, and it did this."
okay.
So you might read the comments. You might just do a quick search on the product to see if there's any info out there about running it on your specific setup. I know Ubuntu maintains a list of hardware compatibility, and we ought to probably see if we can find that link and include
Right.
it in the show notes because you can sort of go through that and see specific laptops and desktops that are pre-built. You can also see custom components and see if those are compatible. When it comes to a lot of the other stuff though, like the usually the motherboard of the system, the hard drive, the RAM,
Hmm.
those should not be affected by Linux. They should work with just about anything.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Feel free to jump in
Yeah,
there. I feel
yeah.
like I've been
I
talking a
was
lot.
just thinking, okay, like, so if I was shopping for components, how about if we simplify this? Okay,
Yeah.
let's break this into two category of customers. Category A, this customer is like me. There's very little PC gaming. Maybe does a few videos here and there, email, talks on Skype. He has a 360 like me. I
hmm
want to build a non-gaming PC. What would be, for all the components for a modern computer, what would be a fair total price? Putting aside, leave the monitor separate, but for the desktop itself.
So a fair total price to build a PC,
Yes.
and just a low end web browsing email.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe even a little better
non-gaming,
than that.
something that might be upgradable in the future, but not
Okay.
necessarily for gaming, not now. Yeah.
You can probably put like a Core i3 machine with 4 gigabytes of RAM, relatively small hard drive. If you find the right combo deal on a site like Newegg for $350. I've
Okay.
seen that a few times here and there. A lot of times there'll be AMD based systems that are 300 or less.
Okay,
It sort of all depends on if you have any existing components, or if not, you just have to sort of keep your eyes open.
gotcha. Okay, so category B, and now I'll take a crack at this.
Hmm.
Category B, the other side of me, the gaming side. I want a gaming PC that's built enough to play the new Halo, which I mean, it won't be coming out on PC, but you kind of know what I mean. I want it to,
Yeah.
I want it. I'm going to guess I probably need to spend at least $1,000. That sounds about right.
To build a gaming PC, it sort of depends on how high you want to go. Personally, my machine, I put a Core i5 in it, and that was about $200, and the price has not changed in 4 months or more.
Okay.
As in terms of the other components, usually you don't need as high a specs as you might think. I mean,
Really?
most systems, 8 gigabytes of RAM is going to be more than enough to play whatever games you want. A graphics card, you might end up paying as much as $200 if you really want the high end gaming experience. You can go as much as 500 or 600 for a graphics card, but there's no point in doing that, in
Really?
my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that'll do that, but they're just trying to squeeze an extra 10% performance out of it and
Ah,
paying 3 times the price. The rest of it, you'll buy a solid state hard drive probably to get great performance, but you can normally get that for $150 or less. Uh, Actually, quite a bit less if you're willing to sacrifice the space.
okay.
I've used like a 128 gig drive that I think I paid $70 for last year, and
All
let's
right.
see, that's two, four, five. Motherboard, you might pay $100 for six,
Okay.
seven with a case. Um, I don't know. You could probably do it for 750 with a hard drive. And if you found a good combo deal, like I said, there are a lot of
Okay.
times they'll put a whole gaming combo together where you kind of get a set of components.
Okay.
You might be able to do it for six or
So if
$700.
you do it yourself and know what you're doing, $1,000 should be enough for
It
most
should be
people.
really the top end. Yeah. I mean,
Gotcha.
unless you're going with the uber high end graphics card and the
Okay.
extreme core i7 whatever, or
Right, right.
uh,
Well,
the
I mean, I
ultra.
know if you wanted to buy one pre-made, you could spend thousands. I mean, just one
Yeah.
right out of
Yeah,
the
you really
box.
can. And that at the same time is usually not worth it.
Really?
And actually, if
Gotcha.
you're buying a pre-built, I was saying this, I think, before we started recording. A
Yeah.
lot of times when I'm looking at pre-builts, I end up going onto like Dell's website. They have
Yeah.
an outlet where they
Okay.
have certified refurbished machines that have a guarantee. It's only like I think it's a 30 or 60-day guarantee,
Okay.
but you will usually get something that looks completely brand new,
Okay.
and there's normally like a 25 to 30% off coupon to put on top of it. So
Oh,
you'll get a discounted price and then a
sweet.
significant discount on top of that.
Sweet.
So, for something like that, you could probably end up in the neighborhood of $500 to $600 for a really
Okay.
high-end machine.
Okay.
I'm actually getting ready to swap my machines around. Figure if I'm going to be doing more PC gaming, I might as well have the Core i5 machine be the Windows machine,
Right.
and I can set it up to dual boot Linux just in case I want to do some gaming from there.
Okay.
But then I'll take my other quad core machine and make it the primary editing machine.
Okay. All right, so $1,000 should be enough. Should be enough for a gaming machine. Of course, if you want it to be, I mean, if you're lazy, you can certainly spend thousands of dollars and buy a pre-built machine, but you need to know what you're looking for. Now, we had talked briefly before we went live or started this conversation that you've had good luck specifically, I mean, as far as buying a machine with Windows 8 and dual booting Linux. You mentioned ASUS, HP, and what was the other one?
Lenovo.
Okay,
Currently, I've got a Lenovo Twist laptop,
gotcha.
and I've used some like an ASUS touchscreen. It was almost an ultrabook, little tiny cheap thing,
Okay.
and an HP relatively high end. I made a video about it. 14-inch laptop, and they all had UEFI on, but they all had an option into the BIOS, or in it's not BIOS anymore, into the
Yeah, yeah.
firmware to
Right.
enable you to disable UEFI or go back into a legacy mode,
Okay.
which on some of them wasn't even necessary. A lot of times, just using the Ubuntu disk, it was able to see it, it was able to boot from it. I think the newer disks have you can load them with a signature on it, like it comes
Okay.
bundled in there with it,
Okay.
to automatically make it seem secure to UEFI.
Okay. I did see something on Ubuntu's website that the latest version should be mostly compatible with at least some machines as far as easily dual booting. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so for folks out there who have a Windows 8 machine, maybe not all of them, but you should there should be a way to go in there and enable you to go into, you mentioned legacy mode, or just shut
Yeah.
that freaking
Well,
thing off. Yeah.
you ought to be able to go in there and just tell it to boot from the disk. And if it will not boot from the disk, you can go into the setup mode and tell it legacy mode or disable UEFI or
Okay.
uh, enable insecure mode, maybe another name for it.
Right.
There's a lot of different options depending on the company and the BIOS producer.
Okay.
It's not BIOS anymore. I have to keep slapping
Right,
my hands
right,
on that
right,
one.
right. All right. Well, Spatry has been kind enough to join us. He was busy nailing Jello to a tree. Spatry, did you hurt your pinky?
My thumb, though, it's about 5 times the size that it normally is. But
Okay.
yeah, she kids nailing Jello to a tree is pretty dumb, so don't do it. Yeah.
Yes. All right. We were talking about some advice on buying versus building a PC, the cost, the pros and cons, and Phil was giving us some advice on remedies for dual booting Windows 8 and
Hmm.
Ubuntu, at least the latest version of Ubuntu, which is 13.04, which is, I believe, more dual boot friendly for Windows 8. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think 12.10 was supposed to be decently dual boot friendly, but as with everything, give it a little bit more time. As the technology matures, it should become more friendly with these newer options.
Okay. Spatry, I know you just bought a machine, a new one,
Hmm.
last month or month before versus building
Yes.
one. So when you were looking to buy it, first of all, tell us how's it working, and then second of all, what were you looking for?
Okay. Well, pretty much. Uh, the thing is, I come from the day and age when it was cheaper to actually just build your own computer. Just go out and buy the parts and build your own machine. It was a lot cheaper to do it that way. But with electronics getting smaller and smaller, they're you know laptop computers are now priced to a point where they're practically disposable. I just bought this quad core computer, brand new, for 350 bucks. Had 8 gigs of RAM in it. It's a quad core AMD processor with ATI. Clocks at 1.5 gigs, but then it automatically goes into turbo mode when you're doing heavy processing, and it goes up to 2.4 gigs for a quad core. This thing pretty much chops up anything I threw into it. Uh, but yeah, that's something I always look for. I always liked the AMD brand,
Okay.
and so I always chased after that. And I mean, even back in the days when I was building my own computers, I liked AMD for the fact that, um, you know, uh, they perform equally as well as the Intel,
Okay.
and you also got a better bang for the buck because you weren't paying for the Intel name.
Okay.
Now, if I can give any advice to people, especially with the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, or UEFI, as you guys were speaking about, one thing you definitely want to look for when you're purchasing a laptop computer or even a desktop computer is, you need to ask the salesman, hey, can I reboot this computer, and can you show me how to get into the the BIOS or the UEFI settings? I want to make sure that I have the option to shut this off so I can install Linux on it. And if it,
Very good advice. Yeah.
yeah,
Excellent.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I want the salesman to show me. I want to
Yeah.
see. I want to, I want to be able to talk to the chipset that's in here.
Okay.
And if you can't show me that, you don't get the sale.
Okay.
And I know a lot of these people that are working in these tech shops, are working for a commission of sorts.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if they want the commission, they'll they'll bend a little,
Yeah.
and
I think
that sort
that's
of
a
thing.
fair question. I mean, can you do it? If not, let's try the next laptop. I mean,
Well,
maybe they'll
yeah,
have
actually, yeah.
something. Yeah, yeah.
In that same vein, a lot of Linux distros are very friendly to USB drives now. So you could actually put it
Yeah,
on a relatively small USB stick, take that along with you, and say, "Can you show me how to get into a point to where I can boot up to this and just make sure all the hardware is going to be compatible with the OS I want to run?"
Since you're not
exactly.
installing anything, right? Sure.
Exactly. You're running
Right.
it all live.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the last laptop that I purchased before this one, as a matter of fact, the one that I actually started the couple Linux show on,
Yeah.
um, they had this as this was you know they had the base model price on the shelf, but they had apparently sold them out, and they had a bunch of them in boxes underneath that had all the software bundles and everything. I basically told the salesman, I says, I want the price that's on the shelf. I says, the first thing I'm going to do when I take this computer home is I'm going to wipe the hard drive and install Linux on it. He says, well, that's stupid because you're going to void your warranty. I says, that's poppycock. I says, I can write to Compaq, and they'll actually give me a refund for the Windows that I'm not using. So that is a myth that you can
Well, I
void
mean,
your
unless you
warranty
physically
by
break it or
installing something
something, but
else.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
but it's always a smart idea to use to use a like Clonezilla to back up
Just in
the
case.
backup partition just in case. But the thing is, with this computer, I before I even actually installed Linux on it, I had Windows running on it for about a good week. I wanted to make sure everything was working properly on it, and
Right.
I was using a live CD with it.
Okay.
And so when I felt comfortable enough, okay, everything's working just fine. Okay, now it's time to wipe the hard drive and put the
Okay.
Linux on there. So
Now, what
yeah.
brand of machine you have, Spatry? Again, the one you
Okay,
bought?
well, I have a Compaq, which is the old computer, and then the new one's an Acer.
Acer, got it.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I have to ask you, Spat, and this is all serious. I know you have the ATI card in this, right, for the graphics?
On both of them, yeah.
On both. Did it really take you 2 hours to tweak it out? I mean, was just one of those things where it just took that, or can it be done on a more simplified basis for a newbie?
Well, the thing is, the issue that I was experiencing is something that Windows users commonly experience when they're hooking up an HDMI interface to their televisions.
Okay.
Okay, the driver worked perfectly on the laptop itself.
Okay.
No issues
Awesome.
whatsoever.
Okay.
With the video tutorial I have up on everything. My problem was with underscan when I had it hooked up to the television because basically I run my laptops like a desktop, but I have the option of taking it with me. And
Okay.
that's the thing I like is the portability.
Okay.
But I had a serious issue with underscanning.
Okay.
In other words, the image wouldn't fill the screen. Or
Gotcha.
even if I, use the TV settings to turn on or off overscan, and really I just had to sit there and really finagle
Gotcha.
with the drivers until I finally got it to work the way I wanted it to. And it did take a couple hours to do it. Absolutely, it was a headache. But
Okay.
it's not something indigenous to Linux. It's also happening to Windows users
Okay.
as well.
All right. So if you didn't want to do that, all you wanted to do was continue doing what you were doing, then it would have been perfectly fine.
Exactly.
Okay. Fair enough. Um, I don't know what else I can add to this except to say that if I was going to buy a new machine today and not build it, I would probably do what Spatry has just suggested. Try it out there on a live USB, and if it works, chances are you will be okay once you take it home.
Hmm.
If you try to do it there and it won't let you, then don't get mad. Just move on to the next. Try the Acer. Try the Toshiba. Try a different brand. Probably
Hmm.
right now it may be a hit and miss if I had to guess with Windows
Well,
8. Yeah.
from my experience, um, if you're looking to buy a Compaq or an HP, you can pretty much be assured it's going to work right out of the box.
Okay.
That's been my experience with them because I've helped a lot of people make the transition to Linux myself,
Okay.
and I've run across and every HP and every Compaq I've installed Linux on work completely out of the box.
Okay.
No driver issues whatsoever. But also, now everybody has mobile devices in their possession, so it's nothing, so if you left your live USB at home or you left your CD or DVD at home, you can still ask Mr. Google on your mobile phone,
True.
if there's compatibility with this device. And of
Right.
course, you're going to find the answers to that very easily. You just type in the name of the model,
Right.
and if it stands to reason that if Ubuntu will run on it, then pretty much any Linux distribution that's out there will run on it.
Okay. Okay. Twill, anything else to add on this?
No, I think you're spot on there. And like we mentioned earlier, the Ubuntu specifically has a list, maintained list of different hardware that's compatible with Linux
Okay.
and just
Hmm.
varying states of it. And there's a whole wiki that's I don't want to say it's perfectly kept up with because it never nothing ever is related to just different hardware and levels of compatibility and what you might have to do or not do to get it to work.
Okay.
So yeah, just as much research as you can do, and
Yeah.
as you were saying before, get your hands on it and
Right.
try to dig in as much as you can before shelling out that money.
Hmm.
Right.
And do make sure to know about the return policies just in case.
Yeah, some places will give you what 30 days, but maybe there's a restocking fee or no, I mean I don't know, but it's
Hmm.
better like Spatry said if you have a live USB, just try it there and if you can boot into it. Now, that still doesn't mean that once you take it home and you install something, you may have issues with, graphics or whatever. There's no guarantee it'll work 100%, but at least you can at least dual boot with your favorite, whether it's Linux Mint or whatever, and try it out.
Hmm.
But obviously, if you can't even boot into it or it won't let you go in, then obviously now you have a problem. But Spatry, I would say try it there if you can stop chuckling already. But
Well, while you were speaking about this, I was reading up about how some Linux fanboys like to go to these retailers, and what they'll do is they'll bring these live DVDs, and there's a label on the live DVD stating this disc isn't doing anything destructive to the computer. And what they'll go around is they'll go around to these PC shops, and they'll load a bunch. They'll load the live CDs into the computers and just let them run Linux.
yeah,
So that people walk up to the computer instead of seeing Windows, they see Linux running on it. And I think it's called hijacking or something
that's
like
not
that.
nice.
Well, well,
Okay.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, it's not doing anything destructive to the computer. I mean, so you walk up to this new Dell computer and you see Linux on it when the sticker says it's got Windows 8 pre-installed or
Well, I
whatever.
wasn't meaning that nice on the machine. Well, what if mom and pop says and sees what we see as Linux Mint? He says, "Oh, so that's Windows 8." No. It's kind of funny though, I have to admit, but yeah, just make sure the customer look, it's a joke. This is not Windows 8, but
Exactly, and that's what people would do. They'd print on the disk that this is a Linux distribution and it's running live, yada yada yada. We didn't install anything to the hard drive, no malware or anything has been done, and
right.
that sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it is kind of funny though. Anyway, okay.
yeah.
No hijacking with us, folks. Shh, shh, yeah, shh, me, yeah, no, no. That's all I have for this one. Twill, if you have anything else to add, I think we can probably close this out.
I think the biggest thing is, like you all were saying, it can be relatively inexpensive to get a very nice machine for Linux or for Windows, whatever you want to do with it,
Mm-hmm.
pre-built.
Okay.
And at the same time, though, you can pay the same price or a little bit more and sometimes build your own. You learn a lot about the internals of a computer. You know exactly what each piece is and
Hmm.
all the warranty information about them. But you can also have a lot of headaches and heartaches with that. So it's
Yes.
kind of a, to each their own.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what you're doing and you have experience like Twill does, by all means. But for newbies out there, if you've never done it, I would probably say just buy one, pre-built, ready to go, test it there with the live USB.
Mhm.
If you're gonna buy a pre-built, if it was me, and,
Hmm.
and I was buying a pre-built machine, not a gaming PC, because as most of you know, I just stay with my Xbox. I would probably go not more than 500 bucks. I would look for, I don't have, I mean, I forget which i4, i5 is a quad core or whatever. I don't, I usually say dual core, quad core, but something quad core. Actually, if it's not going to be gaming, even dual core would be fine. You know,
Yeah.
4 gigs of RAM would be perfectly fine. But if I was looking for a gaming PC, pre-built, I would expect to spend $1,000. Obviously, more RAM the better. The graphics card, the processor, and all that. Stick to a name brand like HP or Lenovo, and you should be fine in terms of quality. But that's what I would do. Like if I was going to go out tomorrow and buy one, for me, I would buy a non-gaming PC, $500 budget, leave the monitor aside, Okay, although I would imagine if you just wanted something simple, you could probably find a desktop for about 350, 400, and maybe like another 150 for a nice monitor, and you're good to go for a
That
non-gaming
sounds
PC.
good. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Well, and also the third option you can sort of throw in there is buy something like that where it's relatively low price to get into, but make sure that it does have some amount of customizability to it. Make sure that the number of RAM slots that it has.
yes,
Make sure there's a slot that you can install a video card in if you choose to do that later. Maybe make sure that the CPU can be replaced, so you could take it off and put something new on
right,
there that's compatible. So you can sort
right.
of piecemeal upgrade it as your budget allows.
If
Yeah.
I may suggest, say you go to your local PC store or whatever, and you find a Lenovo model number, 1234 or whatever, jot the number down, go home at your leisure, do some search on the manufacturer's website for the specs and see what is upgradable and what not. And if you're happy with that, by all means buy it.
Yeah.
That's just the way to do it. But yeah,
Hmm.
that's it.
Hmm.
That's all I have on this really.
Well, you know, in terms of a lot of people, when they're out looking for these computers, especially me, I'm always looking for a good bargain. You know, that's another reason why I go with the AMDs because I mean they perform every bit as well as the Intels,
Okay.
and they perform every bit as well, and you end up saving about $100 or more. You
Okay.
know, you
Okay.
know.
Um,
So,
I would like to end this with a small little rant, and we had talked about this before we started recording,
uh-oh, here it
Spatry.
comes.
But as much as I've been trying to defend Windows 8 on the desktop, well, maybe more on the mobile platform, the other day I had a Toshiba laptop I was trying to fix for someone, and to make a long story short, they had problems connecting to the internet. And I thought, well, let's just do a system restore. So I went to type in the search bar system restore, and Windows 8 didn't recognize it. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is one of the most. Anyway, to make a long story short, I finally found the restore after searching for it. But after 20 minutes later, it says, please wait, please wait. I'm not going to wash, rinse, and repeat here. Like Spatry likes to say. So I
Uh-huh.
rebooted and I told this friend, look, how about if we do a full complete restore? This machine had a separate hidden partition, which is good. She says, that's fine. So you reboot, hit F8, full restore. Now I said, this can take a couple
The fake
hours.
key.
Yeah. And she said, and then I said, this can take a couple hours. She said, that's fine. I just want to fix. So there's my little rant about Windows 8. And Twil was saying it doesn't have the same search characteristics as say Ubuntu, where you can just type in it in and it finds it for you, which would make sense. But you would think
Yeah,
with
you
the
sort of you
modern,
sort of have to pick the scope you want to search when you're doing it, rather than getting everything at a glance.
Oh,
uh,
you might
Yeah.
like the video I'm working on Total OS today. It
uh-huh.
should be going up either tonight or tomorrow. Uh, it's called Linux Does What Win Don't, and I had some fun taking some pot shots
No,
at
that's
Windows 8.
that's
You
fine.
might enjoy that.
And maybe I should do the opposite, well, I have to rephrase it though. What Windows 7 does, and then let's not Windows 8. But maybe that's a topic for a future
Yeah.
news and nonsense. But gentlemen, this has been fun as
Yeah.
usual.
Hmm.
I hope it's
Sorry I
been
was late.
no problem. Sorry about your thumb. Nah. I
I'll
hope
live.
yes, you will. And honestly, we really don't have to see you try that experiment gelato. That Vaseline thing was really enough, Spatry. I know you have a lot of time on your hands, but no.
You-
Yeah.
the only reason why I did that was because nobody else did that one on YouTube.
Really? No one? Huh.
Yeah, I searched. When you do a search for nailing Jello to the tree, there's 50 videos of that up on there. But removing sand from Vaseline, nobody dared do it. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, I've so got to do this one.
so you're like the experiment, Mr.
And it
Yeah.
actually worked.
Mr. Carl Sagan here with all the science stuff, huh? That's all I have to say.
Not practical, but it worked.
Oh no, definitely not. No. Spatry, thank you for coming on.
All
Twil,
right.
thank
Take
you
care.
as always. And
Hmm.
we were talking about maybe doing a gamers podcast. We'll try and get all our schedules together. It may be difficult because our different stuff going on in our lives. But that's all I have
Sure.
for now.
I'm there for
Uh,
that.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Spatry. Thank you, Twil. Make sure you check out Spatry's Cup of Linux and, of course, Twil.tv. Twil recently uploaded a phone that I might be buying next month from Sprint, the Galaxy S4. So there's some good stuff on that, and I'll probably do a review here at the end of next month or so, give you my thoughts. But
Hmm.
Twil, that was a good review, actually. Very informative.
Thank you.
Anyway, gentlemen, that's all I have. If you have something else to add, Spatry or Twil, okay.
I'm fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're quite welcome, Spatry. Thank you as
Mhm.
always. And as always,
Thank you.
we will catch all of you sometime in the future. Bye bye.